Welcome to this edition of Stay at Home Connect. I'm Phyllis Jackson.
While promoting his COVID-19 relief plan, President Biden says that 600 million doses of the coronavirus vaccine will be available by the end of July. FEMA launches the opening of its first COVID-19 vaccination sites in Los Angeles and Oakland as part of the Biden administration's plan to pick up the pace of vaccine distribution. The winter weather is hindering vaccination efforts in many states, including here in Georgia. In a release, the Georgia Department of Public Health says it received notice from the CDC that Pfizer and Moderna vaccines that should have arrived earlier this week were held back by the manufacturers due to the weather. Delays are expected to continue through the week. Many providers are rescheduling appointments. Officials with the Department of Public Health are asking for patience as they wait for weather conditions to improve and shipments to resume. Doctors are concerned about an increase of an extremely rare multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children after exposure to COVID-19. The condition leads to inflammation of the body's major organs. Here's what you need to know. The CDC has a list of symptoms that you should be aware of. Not all children will have the same symptoms. Among the more serious, trouble breathing, chest pain, or pressure that doesn't go away, along with severe abdominal pain. For a full list of symptoms of multisystem inflammatory syndrome, you can go to the CDC's website at cdc.gov.
That's a wrap. We'll see you on the next edition of Stay at Home Connect.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, March 8th, 2021 meeting of the Atlanta City Council Zoning Committee. It's a pleasure to be with you on this remote call. And before we get started with our meeting today, I'd like to ask Ms. Lindo to do a roll call to make sure we have quorum.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. We have Councilmember Carla Smith. Here. Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet. Ms. Overstreet?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Councilmember present, Overstreet present. Councilmember Andrea Boone?
Present.
Councilmember Howard Shook?
Check.
Councilmember Andre Dickens? Councilmember Dickens? Councilmember Cleta Winslow? Mr. Chair, we have 5 members present.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. And while you have the figurative mic, can you please read the remote meeting statement?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Today's zoning committee meeting will be conducted remotely as advertised and in accordance with Georgia Code Section 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting conference bridge toll-free by dialing 877-579-6743 and entering conference ID number 831-599-1256. This information was also provided on the Friday, March 5th, 2021 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlantis.ga.gov, Facebook and Twitter pages at ATL Council, and the Council's YouTube channel. Today's meeting agenda was also published and made available on Friday, March 5th via the city's website at atlantacitygA.iqm2.com. In addition, the public is able to submit comments unrelated to zoning items that have or will go before the Zoning Review Board via voicemail at 404-330-6035 yesterday between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. These comments will be played during the public comment portion of this meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to please mute your phones and speakers. Meeting participants wishing to speak must be acknowledged by the committee chair. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. Our next item is item number D, adoption of the agenda. If I can get a motion to approve the agenda in a second, that would be great.
Motion by Dickens, who is here. Just late.
And are you voting remotely today, Mr. Dickens?
I'm trying to log on, but for now, yes.
Okay, terrific. Ms. Overstreet, do you have a second, maybe?
Second. Thank you. I'm voice, please.
Please open the vote, Ms. Lindo.
One moment, Mr. Chair. One moment. Just one more moment. One more moment. The vote is open. Six yeas, 0 nays. The meeting agenda has been adopted.
Thank you. Our next item is item number E, approval of the minutes. And likewise, I ask for a motion to approve and a second.
Move approval.
Motion to approve, Overstreet.
Okay, so we have a motion from Dickens. Okay, motion from Overstreet, second from Councilmember Dickens. Please open the vote.
One moment, Mr. Chair. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The meeting minutes have been approved.
Excellent. Item number F is public comment. I believe we have 7 minutes and a few seconds of public comment, and if you could please play that now, that would be excellent.
One moment, Mr. Chair.
Henderson Place is being redeveloped because they couldn't get $5 million to maintain it as one of the most affordable and by far the most affordable apartment in Old Fort Ward, Dr. King's historic district area. So they're having to undergo a $25 million renovation, which will displace residents for a period of time. In theory, they get to come back. We've all seen how that plays out. Just because it takes so long to redevelop that people are going to have moved on. Some of the rent, a good chunk of the rent will still be low, but then some will be up to $1,700, $1,800, which again is on the cheap end, but nowhere near what it is now. So I just want to highlight that as an example of just how the affordable housing mechanism is broken in Atlanta, and that a place could stay affordable if it would prioritize getting some funding, but it has to close down, be torn down, raise $25 million, find a bunch of partners to stay in affordable, higher end affordable apartment complex. So again, I just encourage you through the zoning committee. The zoning committee just seems like a rubber stamp on everything. I encourage you to use your power as the zoning committee to prioritize number one focus, affordable housing. You can exercise more power as the zoning committee. And I encourage you to do so. Thanks for your service.
Greetings to you, zoning committee members and staff, and special greetings to you, citizens and voters of Atlanta, paying attention to our government in action and taking note of the degree to which public comment and citizen participation are being respected in this election year. Ben Howard, Senior Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. The NPUR Zoning Committee has been chaired year after year after nauseating year by Renette L. Scott. Working with Vice Chair Antonita Robinson, Corliss Clare, and Ricardo Jacobs, Renette L. Scott can be expected to continue manipulating NPUR zoning policies without the full knowledge and consent of all of the 20,000 residents, voters, and stakeholders along the Campbellton Cascade corridors and beyond. At the NPUR meeting Wednesday, March 3rd, parliamentary procedure protocols went by the wayside as NPUR administrators pushed to endorse a project for non-affordable housing units priced above $300,000 each. Ignored were point of order, point of information, forum call, roll call vote, and point of special privilege as they marched on to do their will. I urge that if and when any recommendations come to you concerning Neighborhood Planning Unit R, you insist, council members, that those recommendations be accompanied by official minutes attesting that a valid vote of the membership was taken, and further attesting that all parties have been notified and given fair opportunity to present their positions on the matter. Again, I caution you that should you attempt to interfere with the manipulations of the NPUR 9, you will be met with fierce resistance from Vice Chair Antonita Robinson, Corliss Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Renette L. Scott, Alfred White, Allison Hathaway, Sherry Williams, and the NPUR 9 cohort and enablers.
I am Brother Antonio Muhammad, a spiritual being having a human experience. And I want committee for allowing me to make my comments. And I want to talk directly to the newest members of council, the youngest ones that I was able to work with and be in a march. And this march that we're in made me feel so comfortable with people like Mr. Jewett, Mr. Westwood, Miss I, Mr. Pelosi, and other members of council, of course. But what I learned as a politician, you could be an asset in the 21st century for the benefit of the majority citizen in Atlanta. This is a zoning committee. I have been talking about a problem with a senior who has a problem getting work done on her property. The zoning violations should be considered because we have a free-flowing stream. And now when we have things zoned, I have things with an ordinance put upon it, that's not supposed to be corrected to make it be beneficial according to the ordinance that has been said. Now, how is I'm tying this into your committee? You members of this committee recognize, as I said, I was honored. I was very much honored to march with you all. You're members. And why is I'm saying it? I have been on this earth for 6 to 8 years. And I recognize in the year 2020, 2019, we had so much controversy going on in the city of Atlanta, but we had a strong amount of young Caucasians and other people, different youth, standing up for the actions from wrong all over the country against darker people. And I want to thank you. But I want to ask you as a politician of the 21st century, Ms. Westmoreland, I know you have aspirations to be a man. But listen to this. Your chief of staff asked me one time, what can we do, Brother Muhammad, to help? What can you do is speak truth, falsity, be transparent, openness, and honesty. As you and I was in that march, I recognized Black Lives Matter as part of it. And I just recently found from CNN, ABC, my people have, who look like me, have continued to not serve the interests of the people they say they are. So I ask you, Mr. Westmoreland, just start speaking truth to falsehood, and we will be pleased to support.
Yes, my name is Chris Ferguson, and I'm calling. I just wanted to call out attention to Henderson Place Apartments. So as you may have seen, Henderson Place is being redeveloped because they couldn't get $5 million to maintain it as one of the most affordable and by far the most affordable apartment in Old Fourth Ward, Dr. King's historic district area. So they're having to undergo a $25 million renovation, which will displace residents for a period of time. In theory, they get to come back. We'll be all seeing how that plays out. Just because it takes so long to redevelop that people are going to have moved on. Some of the rents, a good chunk of the rents will still be low, but then some will be up to $1,700, $1,800, which again is on the cheap end, but nowhere near what it is now. So I just want to highlight that as an example of just how the affordable housing mechanism is broken in Atlanta, and that a place could stay affordable if we prioritize getting some funding, but it has to close down, be torn down, raise $25 million, find a bunch of partners to stay in affordable, higher-end affordable apartment complex. So, again, I just encourage you through the zoning committee. The zoning committee just seems like a rubber stamp on everything. I encourage you to use your power as the zoning committee to prioritize number one focus, affordable housing. You can exercise more power as the zoning committee. And I encourage you to do so. Thanks for your service.
All right, thank you, Ms. Linda Flynn, for all the comments. For those of you who are listening, we heard the last comment was also played first, but we played it again because the speaker's name was cut off, so that's why we heard it twice. At the second time around, we could hear who was providing the comment. We now turn to item number G, ordinances for first reading. As has been the policy this year. We won't read them off today because they will be read at the full council meeting and still go through the regular 2-week cycle. I don't believe any action is needed to do so. Is that right, Ms. Lindo?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. So our next item is item number 8, ordinances for second reading. We have 2 today. The first one is item number 6. I'd like it read in, and then I will ask DCP, Department of City Planning, to comment on the changes reflected in the substitute.
Mr. Chair, we do have a substitute. If we can have a motion to bring the substitute forward.
I'll pause for maybe Mr. Dickens. Thank you.
Second, Overstreet.
Okay, if you please open the vote.
One moment, Mr. Chair. The vote is open.
And Mr. Dickens, we didn't catch you as the mover, so you go ahead and voice your vote, please.
Yay.
Thank you.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item has been substituted, and the substitute is before you.
Item number 6, 20-1729, Z-2081, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis as substituted by Zoning Committee to amend the 1982 Atlanta zoning ordinance as amended, City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Part 16, so as to add a new chapter 41 entitled Westside Park Affordable Workforce Housing District, to define certain terms, to provide related requirements, procedures, and incentives, to amend the official zoning map, to amend the 1982 Atlanta zoning ordinance as amended, City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Part 16, Chapter 28, Section 1628023, so as to allow transfer development rights for unused density bonus and for other purposes. Staff recommendation approval, NPU recommendation approval, approval conditional, VRV recommendation approval.
Thank you. I'd like to ask if anyone from DCP is here to explain the substituted portions.
Mr. Josh Humphreys will be speaking to that, Mr. Councilmember Pierogi.
Thank you. Mr. Humphreys, are you with us?
Hi, everyone. This is Josh Humphreys. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I'm Josh Humphreys. I'm the director of the Office of Housing and Community Development in the Department of City Planning. The substitute, the only one change in there. There was some clarification around the in lieu fees. On the rental side of the ordinance, you're allowed the developers allowed 3 options at different levels of affordability, and the added language to clarify that if they opt to do the in lieu fee instead of provide the affordable units, that would be at 15% of the units, since that was not clear in the first one. So it's just a kind of a clarification.
Thank you. Any questions for our friends at City Planning or Mr. Humphreys? Okay. I will pause for a motion and a second. I do want to make a comment before we vote on it, but I'll see if there's a motion and a second first.
Motion by Dickens.
Overstreet, second. I'd love to hear your comment.
Yeah, thank you. And I will, obviously, if anyone else wants to make a comment, you can hit your button or just speak up after I am. I will say I'm going to support this. I know Councilmember Hillis has worked hard with City Planning and the Housing Office, as has the office itself. And it's a kind of a firmer step toward an inclusionary zoning approach, similar to, but a different geographic footprint, but similar to Councilmember Dickens' leadership on this a few years ago. And I will say, in theory, this is just me personally. In theory, it's an attractive idea. I think in practice, as it's scaled, it's not the solution to our affordable housing challenges. I think that will only come from increasing housing supply, and we can debate what that looks like, whether and where it looks like best. But primarily, that's going to come through more density. I think my hesitations with inclusionary zoning is that it drives up market rate for market rate folks. So you don't have any market rate housing in that footprint. You have some below market rate housing, and you have housing that the cost of the reduced rent is kind of passed on to those who can pay market rate. And so you kind of do it across the entire city. We've seen this in San Francisco and New York and other places. It can create a distorted housing market when I think there's some real strong wins at the personal level when you do this, and it will have a positive impact for a number of folks who live in this footprint. But as a broader citywide policy, which is not on the table today, I think it warrants deeper conversation as we get into it. So those are my thoughts. I'm happy to support it. We'll be voting for it. But I think as we talk about affordable housing, we should have a very honest conversation about this tool in particular and what it means for everyone's rent and maybe other approaches to increasing housing supplies at the costs. We could have housing at every price point. Any other comments before we vote? Excellent. So let's go ahead and vote. Please open the vote, Ms. Lindo.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair. Votes opposed, 6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable on substitute.
Terrific. And we have only one more item today, and by chance it happens to be a piece of legislation that I introduced. If we could read it in, Ms. Lindo.
Item number 7, 21-0145, an ordinance by Councilmember Amir R. Faroqi to waive Atlanta City Code Section 1508005B2 of the subdivision ordinance of the City of Atlanta and Atlanta City Code Section 1606B0071 of the zoning ordinance of the City of Atlanta for the purpose of allowing 3 single-family homes at 637 Willoughby Way and for other purposes.
Great. This is just to squeeze in more housing on what used to be a lot for one house. I will have 3 houses. Can I get a motion in a second, if possible?
So moved, Dickens.
Second, Overstreet, and of course my computer is just not coming online. I think it's our last legislation now, huh? Okay.
Thank you.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Overstreet, you can ask to reconsider all of it.
Nah. But I will second.
6 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable.
Thank you. Sometimes council members shook hard-earned wisdom is well placed. That advice is not good advice, even if made sarcastically. But we're glad you're with us now, Ms. Overstreet, at least online. But as you indicated, that brings us to the end of our agenda. I will pause and see if any of y'all have comments or announcements you'd like to make. And barring none, we will adjourn today's meeting. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.